When I'm working with people, almost inevitably one of the themes that comes up is relationships. Whether they're in one and maintaining and growing that, or whether they're seeking a relationship, something that we're all working on is relationships. So I thought I'd do a little video breaking it down, what I've experienced and my perspective on it. First thing, love. You cannot give something that you don't have. How do you give something you don't have? If you don't love yourself first, then your ability to give that love to anyone else is not there. It's not available. So we need to go within ourselves and begin that process of learning to love ourselves. So what does that mean? What's coming to mind first is knowing who you are. If you know who you are on all these different levels, from your body to your emotional body to your astral body to your soul, all these different aspects of who you are, then you can bring awareness to those parts of yourself and begin to send love and create a relationship. That's really what it comes down to. You need to create a relationship with yourself. And so if you were coaching yourself, if you were mentoring yourself, how would you direct yourself to eat, to move, to meditate, to express? All these different things that we can actually do to create momentum in our life of self-love. There were plenty parts of my life where I was self-sabotaging. I was doing the opposite of self-love, and then eventually I found this whole concept of personal development, spirituality, whatever you want to call it, self-love. And I already had a meditation practice at this point, and during the day, every morning I'd start 15 minutes and I would just repeat the phrase, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself. And eventually I would get to the awareness of bringing my attention to my heart and allowing that emotion to take over. How would it feel if I loved myself? What would that feel like for me? And then I'd embody that. And it took months, if not years. I mean, I'm still a work in progress. We never get to the end. There's no end point. It always is growing and evolving. As long as we're in a body, we're here to be a human, to experience being a human. So that was how it began. Then eventually I got to the point where I could see the duality of being alone and giving love. So those are the two aspects that we can break it down to. When we are in meditation, when we're completely turned inward, that's when we are the most alone. If you close your eyes and visualize yourself completely alone, there is no other place on earth that you will be more alone. It is just you, just your thoughts. Eventually, we might put microchips in our brains and all that, but even then, we're still alone. And in that aloneness, we begin to get comfortable. when you know who you really are, when you can tap into your soul essence, your higher self. Your higher self is just light. It is a being of light. It doesn't matter how dark it is outside, how dark the world is. Your true essence is completely comfortable by itself. It has no problem. You can tap into this energy and go to a movie alone. You can travel the country alone. You can go on dates alone. All these things, I've experienced it myself. I know what it is to just be completely satiated, satisfied, and content being by yourself. And once you reach that level, then you start to develop this urge to give this love that you have away. And you also develop the intuition to know when it's reciprocated. So on my journey of exploring relationships, there was a time when I had to go on a lot of dates. I met a lot of random people to see if we were a good match, see if we vibed. And most of them didn't work out. I mean, I went on countless dates and countless dates didn't work out. Eventually I found somebody that we just clicked. There's an electromagnetic energy, a synergy between us, and we just started hanging out, didn't stop. It was awesome. We eventually got to the point where we got in a relationship and we moved in together and all the things, and it doesn't end there. You are always growing, you're always evolving. Relationships become a mirror for yourself. And I guess something that's coming to mind is when you look at a partner, you look at your significant other, always look at them for their gifts, for what special qualities they have, and remember, no one is perfect. Imperfection is part of the earth realm. You're not perfect and they're not perfect. If they were perfect, they'd be dead. The only perfect thing is something that cannot grow. It'd be frozen. So realize and appreciate their imperfection. Appreciate your imperfection and realize we're just continuously growing, flowering, and you get to the point where it becomes easier. You don't feel like you're struggling. You develop this momentum of self-love that you can just ride that train. And of course you gotta check in, always gotta grow, and eventually maybe you start a family, and from there it gets even more complicated. You start introducing new people, new humans into the picture, and again, that's the best and the worst thing that can happen to you, because you don't want to pass your self-sabotaging habits onto your kids. You want to be able to give them the best of yourself, and so they are always watching you, and you need to show up with more than words, with your actions, who you actually are embodied as. They'll sense that. So will your partner. The more your awareness grows, the more sensitive you become, the more sensitive and aware your relationships are going to become. And they'll get to the point where I started dating people that could basically, we had a telepathic relationship. I couldn't get away with any, how do I say, narcissistic or self-serving behavior when I would even act a way that maybe I wouldn't in front of them. They could sense it. They could feel the changes in my aura. And so you get to a point where you can't lie behind their back. You have to be authentic who you are. And so they help you in that sense grow and really embody your highest self. So if you're struggling to get a relationship, first of all, I guess, appreciate being alone. You have to learn to appreciate being by yourself. If you can't do that, then you will never develop the ability to love anyone else. And sometimes you can only do things that you can do by yourself, if that makes sense. You can only have certain experiences alone. Once you get in a relationship, you might start wishing you weren't in a relationship or whatever. You're also exactly where you need to be. You gotta remember that at all times. If you're alone, you're supposed to be alone. If you're in a relationship, you're supposed to be. If it works out, it's supposed to. If it doesn't work out, it's supposed to. Appreciate being alone. Appreciate being in a relationship. Ultimately, it's up to you to decide your own frequency and your own frequency to decide if you're worthy of attracting someone to be in a relationship with. And you are born worthy. Don't think that you need to do something. All you need to do is get out of your own way.